Okay, exercise group 3 for workout B are rotator cuff muscles and forearm exercises. Rotator cuff muscles are small muscles whose function is to stabilize your shoulder joint. These muscles are often neglected in exercise programs, and the benefits of training these muscles, since they are involved in shoulder joint stabilization, should be obvious for any type of racket sports like squash. One note about training these muscles: you should never train these muscles to complete exhaustion. You should also always have a couple of reps left in you at the end of your set. I'm not going to be putting up any sets or reps charts for this particular exercises. Basically what I want you to do is simply do a couple of very light warm-up sets, 5 to 6 reps, and then pick a weight where you can do 3 to 4 sets of 5 reps. That is going to be challenging for you, but where you still have a couple of reps left in you at the end of your last repetition. Now I'm going to be demonstrating a couple of rotator cuff exercises. Your job is simply to pick one and do it whenever this section of the workout comes up in your schedule. Okay, as for your forearm exercises, training your forearms can be very beneficial to a squash player. Anyone who's ever played squash will obviously recognize the benefits of being able to snap your wrist more forcefully. I'm not going to put up any sets or rep charts, just like the rotator cuff muscles. You simply do a couple of light warm-up sets, followed by 3 to 4 sets of 5 reps for your work sets. Unlike the rotator cuff muscles, however, you can work your forearms to exhaustion. Your rotator cuff muscles are a little bit more delicate, perhaps a little bit more prone to injury if you push them too hard. Your forearms aren't quite as delicate, so you can push them a little bit harder. Now I'm going to be demonstrating 6 different forearm exercises. Your job is to pick 2, maybe even 4, and do those exercises whenever this particular part of the program comes up in your schedule. Let's start off now by taking a look at a couple of rotator cuff exercises. Okay, first rotator cuff exercise, external rotation while standing using an adjustable cable machine. First thing you want to do is adjust the cable so that it's in line with your arm. Actually, in this picture, it's a little bit low. It should be set up a slot or 2 higher. Regardless, the movement is simple. You are simply externally rotating with the arm, as you'll see in the video here in a second. One thing to note, you don't want to let your arm come up away from the side of your body as you are externally rotating, and don't let it slide back either. The upper arm is completely still except for the rotation. Another rotator cuff exercise is the kneeling external rotation. In this exercise, you are putting your arm in a different position. It is in a line parallel to the floor this time. The same type of movement principle applies, though you are simply externally rotating your upper arm. That is the exercise. As you are externally rotating the upper arm, you want to make sure you don't let your arm come up or down, forward or back. Limit all movement except for that rotation. As mentioned earlier, you are to pick one of those 2 rotator cuff exercises whenever this part of the program comes up in your schedule. Let's move on to forearms now. Okay, the first group of forearm exercises we're going to be doing is going to involve the use of a lever bar. A lever bar is simply any sort of bar with weight to it. It doesn't even have to be a bar. It could be any sort of stick or pipe or whatever, as long as it has a little bit of weight to it. You'll be holding the bar off center so that the longer section of the bar will provide the resistance. Okay, here I am setting up with the lever bar. What I do is I use hand lengths, which means I measure out a certain number of hand lengths down the bar, and that's where I start the exercise. As I come up here, I let the bar rotate inwards. You can see my wrist rotating inwards as well, and then back to the starting position. You'll notice that there's more of the bar on one side than the other, and that's what's providing the resistance. And if you want to increase the difficulty of this exercise, you would simply move your hand further down the bar. As you're going to see here in a second, I move it 1 hand length more down the bar, and so more of the bar is on one side than the other now. So it's going to be more difficult to get back to the starting position, because you've just increased the length of the lever and you're going to be working against more of the bar's weight. The second forearm exercise is very similar to the first, the difference being that this time you're going to let the bar rotate outwards instead of inwards. Here you see me measuring hand lengths down the bar to see where I start. And when I start the exercise here, I'm going to let the bar rotate outwards. And the same principle applies in terms of increasing the resistance. All you would do is move your hand further down the bar, thereby increasing the length of the lever and making the exercise more difficult. Okay, in the next forearm exercise, you won't be rotating the wrist, you'll be flexing it. As you'll see here in a second, the more lengthy section of bar is located in front of your hand here. One thing I want to mention here, try not to bend at the elbow here at all. Your arm, try to keep your arm as straight as possible and still as possible with the exception of your wrist. And in terms of increasing resistance, the same principle applies again. Move your hand further down the bar to increase the resistance. There you see I'm using a half hand length instead of a full hand length to increase the resistance, but it will still be harder. Okay, the next forearm exercise is similar to the previous one, except that in this case the majority of the length of the bar is going to be behind your hand instead of in front. This will involve different muscles. Once again, try and not move any part of your arm except for your wrist here. Your arm is completely still except for your wrist flexing. Okay, the next two forearm exercises are wrist curls, both with palms up and palms down. Here you see my palms, the exercise with the palms down. I'm using a bench to brace my forearms against. My wrist is hanging off the edge of the bench, and I'm using the forearm muscles to curl the weight upwards. Nothing else is moving here. The only movement here is at the wrist joint. And here we have wrist curls with the palms facing upwards. This time I'm using my thigh to brace my forearms instead of the bench. Okay, so there you have 6 different forearm exercises to choose from. As mentioned earlier, you were to choose 2, perhaps 4 of these exercises to do whenever this part of the program comes up in your workout schedule. Let's move on now to Workout C. Workout C is a lower body workout with special emphasis on the posterior chain of muscles, specifically the glutes, the hamstrings, calves, the back. Exercise 1 in Workout C is the deadlift. Exercise 2 is the step up. Exercises 3A and 3B are to be alternated as per usual. 3A is the leg curl and 3B are ab exercises, with specific emphasis on the rectus abdominis. And exercise 4 will involve dynamic calf work. Let's start off by taking a look at the deadlift. Okay, here are the sets and reps charts for the deadlift. Deadlift is a great overall body exercise, works the entire back of the body and the forearms. Proper exercise form is especially important with this exercise because you can lift some pretty heavy loads here. A few sessions with a trainer to perfect your form wouldn't be that bad of an idea here. You should make an effort not to push the resistance too much while you are just starting out with this exercise. Perfect your form first and then slowly start to push yourself. Always remember to have a few reps in you after your last set when you start off. Let's take a look at the exercise itself. Okay, here we have a deadlift. Let's take a couple of minutes to mention a couple of points about form and positioning. Now, in the bottom position of the deadlift, you want to have your arms hanging straight down. Your wrist should be directly below the shoulder joint, and you want to have your butt positioned equidistant between your shoulder joint and your knee joint, as you can see here. You don't want it too high, you don't want it too low. You want to have the bar just in front of your shins. You don't want to have the bar too far ahead of your body. And before lifting, you want to tighten up your entire body, get your entire body under tension. And you want to squeeze the bar as hard as you can. And as you lift up, first of all, you want to lift it up. You don't want to jerk it up. You want to keep your back perfectly flat as you lift it up. You don't want to round out your back as you're lifting the barbell up. And you want to thrust your hips forward as you are lifting up as well. And here is a front view of the deadlift. Once again, notice my hands are directly below my shoulders. They're positioned shoulder width apart on the bar. Notice my hips thrusting forward here as I lift upwards. And on the way down, I try to keep the bar as close as possible to my body. I don't let the bar travel away from my body as I lower the bar. And for those of you who know how to do the exercise, you can do the sumo deadlift instead of the regular. The difference between the sumo deadlift and the regular deadlift is that in the sumo deadlift, your feet are positioned wider apart. Therefore, your hands are on the inside of your knees as you go down, as opposed to the outside of your knees. This allows you to keep your upper body more upright, and it forces the glutes and hamstrings to do more of the work. Let's take a look now at the step up. Okay, here are the sets and reps charts for the step up. The step up is an exercise that works the glutes and hamstrings. And in this exercise, you'll be stepping up onto any solid, secure platform, a box or a bench, for example. Let's take a minute now to look at the exercise itself. Okay, here I am doing a step up using just body weight. As mentioned earlier, you want to step up onto a solid surface, and in this video actually I don't like the bench I'm stepping up onto because it has a little bit too much give to it. I would prefer something a little bit more solid, but whatever. When you're stepping up, as just like I mentioned with the single leg squat, what you want to do is you want to try to feel the weight of your body over your entire foot. You don't want to have the weight of your body shifted forward so that you feel the weight more in your toes. You want to feel it over your entire foot, or perhaps a little bit more in the heel would be good too. That will make sure, that'll indicate to you that you're working your glutes and hamstrings. So don't let your body weight shift forward. Also, try and resist on the way down. Don't just drop down into the bottom position on the floor. You can do all of your reps on one leg at a time, or you can alternate. For example, you can do right leg, then left leg, then right leg up, and left leg up. Or you can do it like I like to do it, just have all of your reps on your right leg first, and then do all of your reps on your left leg next. Eventually you'll just be doing singles, so it won't matter that much anyway. Also, in order to increase the resistance, obviously body weight won't be enough, so you would grab dumbbells in your hands and do step-ups that way. And another variation of this exercise is doing a step-up with a barbell, if you don't like to use dumbbells. Okay, the next group of exercises, exercises 3A and 3B, are leg curls and abs. As mentioned earlier on in the program, once before, there's going to be a separate section for abs at the end of the weights workout portion of this video. So we're going to focus more on the leg curl right now. The one thing I want to mention with abs is that here in the sets and reps chart, you see the last couple of sets call for a single rep. You can do that with abs, but also with abs, if you'd like, you can bump that up to 3 reps for those last 2 sets, or for however many sets you do. You can do 3 reps instead of 1. There's nothing wrong with doing single reps with abs, but if you feel more comfortable doing a few more reps with abs, then bump it up to 3. Regardless of how many you do for abs, however, with the leg curl, stick with single reps for your heaviest sets. With that being said, let's take a look at the leg curl.